ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमू रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om everyone. Wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. So nice to see all of you, and it's always a joy to see all of you in person, virtually, but on the screen, and then have this reflection. So today we are having some slides, and traditionally, the teaching is given not with any kind of equipment in between. But there are some concepts that, become easier if we use some slides and things that go along with it. So that is why I'll be sharing some of it. I feel like I'm using a blackboard, in earlier days how teachers used to teach, to explain some concept, you need to write something. So this camp is going to be mostly a concept-based camp. That is why we are using some of these things. But before we begin, we invoke Puja Gurudev's grace on all of us. May we benefit from this reflection. And what this camp is about, I will start now. But more importantly, it is their grace which makes things happen. So let me share my screen now. Okay. Are you all able to see the full screen? Okay, good. Thank you. So this camp is called Fundamentals of Vedanta. The inspiration behind this camp comes from a retreat that was conducted in 2019 of last year. It was a camp for all graduates of Sandipanis from all batches. So our Chinmay mission has got Sandipanis in several locations. One of the main one is Sandipani Ashram in Powai, but there is Sandipani Himalayas, there is one in Kerala. So like that, there are several Sandipanis, and anybody who has graduated from that institute, a camp was organized which was called as Vedanta Ramanam. And Puja Guruji introduced this camp, and he said whenever there were camps held before, they were mostly administrative camps, and one portion of that administrative camp was discussion on Vedanta. But what happened was everybody liked that session so much that they said, can't we just have this, something which is dedicated only for Vedanta Chintanam? So that was the idea behind coming up with a retreat of this kind. The word Ramanam, right? Vedanta Ramanam. Ramanam means to revel. Reveling in what? We can revel in several things. We can revel in music. We can revel in science. And we can also revel in Vedanta. But for reveling in something, we need to get immersed in that thing. Means constantly that thought has to go on. And we should also know how it is related to us. Right? Once we are convinced how this thing is related to me, and I'm able to keep my mind in that, then reveling happens. So Guruji had planned the entire day in that way. So it was a 14-day long camp, 2 weeks almost. And every day was planned such that from morning till evening, you keep your mind in Vedanta. Just like how we have Thanksgiving camp also, you will notice from morning till evening, you have several activities, but they are just different ways of bringing our mind back into the same topic. So morning we used to start our day at around 7 o'clock or 6:30. We used to have the first session, which was chanting of all compositions of Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji, Prakarana Grantha. So you see the pictures there, the one on the bottom in between where there are people singing. And so that was the way we started in the morning. Not singing, singing was in the evening. Morning was chanting, Prakarana Granthas. Then at around 10 o'clock, Guruji had given certain topics and Brahmacharyans had to speak on those topics in front of Guruji. You had to speak only for 5 minutes. That was the first time I realized how long 5 minutes can be. Because, Guruji was sitting here, Swami Swarupanand ji was sitting there, and our Acharya ji, Puja Swami Bodhatmanand ji was sitting, and 200 Swamins and Brahmacharyans all staring at you. And they have spoken about the same topic every day. So you have to, say something on that day. So that was the time, 1 hour, we all would reflect on one topic that Guruji had given. He had spoken about, or he had told us to reflect on divine qualities, what we see in 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So everybody had to elaborate for 5 minutes. After that was a group discussion. So every day had a particular theme. And all those themes I have tried to capture in our retreat. Okay, Vedanta, Ramanam comes from there. So every day, one theme Guruji gave us. So we had to discuss. There were around 12 to 15 groups which were formed based on languages. And after discussing, we had to present in front of Guruji in the evening, and then Guruji will summarize. In his lecture, he will recapture the whole thing and also show us where we can think more, how we can think systematically. That Guruji would do to us in the last session. And evening session was a lighter one where you could, different, talents were explored, bhajans and everything was there. So that is what you see here. That is Guruji's lecture on the top left in the evening at around 7 o'clock, 1 hour Guruji used to give. And group discussions, you can see Swamiji also there on down. And also on the right hand side, we had very nice, different language discussions. But one thing I learned from that retreat was that Vedanta is an ocean. And what I know right now is like a tip of the iceberg. In that ocean of Vedanta, when so many different people have thought, so many different people have different ways of presenting, we just realize how little we know. But most importantly, the way Guruji connected all the topics, right? There were around 15 topics. It made me think that none of the topics that we study in Vedanta talk about something different than me. Means everything will come back, its relevance will come back to me only. So if somebody asks, is Vedanta relevant to us? We should ask the question, are we relevant to ourselves? Because all topics are talking about us. So that way, a lot of things, keep coming up when we keep studying Vedanta. So in this camp, we will try to see some of the topics. If we can, we'll see all of them. Let us see, how things unfold. This is the handwritten copy that Guruji had given about the topics of what we are going to discuss. You don't have to go through the names and all, just appreciate Guruji's handwriting. I think this should go in the archives now. It will gradually, with the way he had nicely written it for us. And every topic has a sequential thought progression. Okay, that was the beauty of this. Don't worry, all of this has been translated into English and it will come one by one. Okay, if you are trying to see what is there, I'll go to the next slide now. So before we start studying any topic, the first question we should ask ourselves is, why are we doing this? We have gathered here, it's a Thanksgiving weekend. We could have done so many things, but why are we here to know about Vedanta? Why should we study Vedanta? There are different ways of inquiring. I will take one of the ways. Whenever we see ourselves, right, we realize from morning till evening, day after day, we are going through several experiences. Some of them we call as good experience, some of them not so good experience. But at the end of the day, it is an experience. Now the question is, what is it through which we are going through all these experiences? Good, bad is different. Huh? We don't need to label it yet. We say it is the body. Only when body is there, we are able to interact with the world outside. Now, Vedanta means thinking. Huh? We have to keep asking questions. Now you see how it goes to the next question. So somebody asks, why do we have a body in the first place? I have a body, but have I ever questioned, why do I have a body? So then it is said, we have a body because we have done certain karmas in the past. Some actions we have performed, because of which we have been given this human body. Good actions and not so good actions. It is said when punya, good karmas, fructify, or they are sufficient, then we get a human body. And it's very rare. I won't go into that discussion, but we just have to appreciate that getting a human body itself is a result of punya karma. Now somebody said, why did I end up doing karmas in the first place? Then it is said, there were some kind of desires because of which we ended up doing karmas. Even here, in our day-to-day life, we see, nicely we are sitting in one place, either working or studying or something. One thought comes. What is that thought? Maybe I should get a cup of coffee. It's been a long day. 4 or 5 hours I've been sitting in one place. Let me get a cup of coffee. That desire has prompted me into karma. I'm taking coffee example because it's an innocent example, okay? We have to replace it with all other desires. Point is, karmas are there because there are desires. Now, why there are desires? It is said, because I have created strong preferences. Somewhere, the first time I tasted coffee, I felt it was heaven. And that impression which is there has been so deep-rooted that every time it forces me into a desire about coffee, which forces me into action. Okay, that is the way of thinking. Now somebody says, why did I end up with strong preferences? It is said because we have been seeing happiness outside. Either it is a cup of coffee. Now I said, coffee is a very innocent example. Now apply to all other desires, all other objects. Whenever there is this impression, thought, that there is happiness outside, I will generate strong preferences. I will have desire for that thing. I will end up doing actions. Now we don't have to judge these things yet, okay? We are just looking at the thought flow. Why Vedanta? Don't start directly saying whether seeing happiness outside is a good thing or a bad thing. That we'll leave it for later. Right now, we're just analyzing what is happening here. Now comes the next step. Why do we see happiness outside? It is said because I'm ignorant of my nature, my true nature as happiness. Nature of consciousness, that is what is our nature, which is of the nature of Ananda. Not having recognized that, I start seeing happiness somewhere else, outside, and with that, this chain starts forming. Now, at each level, what we have discussed, there are different remedies. For example, if I'm feeling cold, I don't need to go through all this analysis and say, because I don't know my nature as happiness, that is why I'm feeling this cold. No need for that. If I'm feeling cold, wear a sweater. But we should understand there are some things which are immediate concerns, but there are some things which are fundamental concerns. And Vedanta takes us all the way to the fundamental problem. But it also makes sure that our mind and life becomes very, very beautiful, which is what is the part of sadhanas. All the sadhanas will take us from body identification until letting go of strong preferences. At that point, this mind has become so, a very beautiful mind that majority of its other things are solved. But there is something more to it, which is what is the main topic of Vedanta. That is what is our true nature. Okay, that is this portion, a holistic view about what is Vedanta. If you want to put it in one sentence, this is what is the essence of Vedanta. What I am seeking is me, myself. But what am I seeking actually? Happiness. Right? Even if I want objects, I want it not for its own sake. I want it because it gives me happiness. Vedanta says, where is that happiness occurring? Is it happening outside in the object or in the mind? And where is the happiness in the mind coming from? That is this inquiry of Vedanta. Okay, so we should have a holistic view. Now don't worry if you didn't get any of these in between. Everything now will unfold slowly. Okay? So that is how we will build our thought process. Now Vedanta, when we say, Vedanta is a darshan. This word darshan, we all are familiar with, but maybe not in this context. Have you heard the word Doordarshan? The television that was there before? That word darshan comes there, right? What it means is ability to see far. Dura is, it looks very different when you translate in English, but Doordarshan, that black and white television that we had, and what all things we could see on that. One TV, a cricket match is coming, there will be like 20 people. Ramayana is going on, the whole neighborhood comes for that one TV. That was the power of Doordarshan. But the word darshan, darshan means a vision of life. To see, but to see things about my life. That is called darshan. Now, what is this darshan for? It is a pursuit for eternal happiness and complete cessation of sorrow from life. Happiness can be different types, but if it is a broken kind of happiness, broken means intermittent. Now and then it is, coming and going. More than that, we would prefer some happiness which is long-lasting and eternal. Our sages started thinking about these questions. Is there something that is going to give me eternal happiness and complete cessation from sorrow? Not only some of it, some aspects, but complete cessation. Like this, when they started thinking, there was a quest in their heart. Different rishis means sages. They had a quest to know about life. What is this thing that we call life? Where is this sentiency in this body coming from? They also had this quest to know about creation. what is this creation? Where did it come from? What was the origin of creation? But most importantly, they also wanted answers to the experiences that we are going through our life day in and day out. Why do certain experiences come in my life, and what should be my response to them? All of this together forms a darshan. Okay, darshan or a philosophy, when we say, it's a very deep subject. We cannot just take one aspect of a thing and try to build a darshan out of it. So we'll now see what is, the practical side of a darshan. Means our response to any situation in life depends on our vision of life. Okay, that is what is this darshan. Now, what is the relevance of this darshan in our life? There is a beautiful quote by Pujya Gurudev where he says, what we meet in our life is our destiny, and how we meet it is our free will. And this free will is what we exercise based on our vision of life. What darshan we have, that decides how our response will be. Situations in our life are brought about by our karmas. This we will see elaborately in detail. And not every time we can directly change the situation outside. How we respond to that situation which has come in our life today depends on how much depth we have in understanding our life. That insight is given by Vedanta. That is why it is called Vedanta Darshan. Okay? Now I'll give an example which will help it make clearer what is darshan. Bhagwan Ramchandra ji's life, when he was made to go into the forest, he was said he would be made the king one day, and just the other day, before even his coronation takes place, he is said, go to the forest. And he meets various rishis in the forest. This we saw in that play that was put together, Inside Rama, Outside Rama, who all Bhagwan meets. One of the rishi Bhagwan meets, Bhagwan Ramchandra ji meets, is Valmiki Rishi, Maharshi Valmiki ji. Valmiki ji sees Bhagwan and welcomes him. He does pranams and everything. And he's wondering, why is the Lord of the universe, the king of, son of the prince of Ayodhya, is walking here barefoot. And he asks Bhagwan, what happened? Answer Bhagwan Ramchandra gives is very beautiful. Bhagwan says, Tata bachana puni matu pituhita bhai bharata asarau. This is Doha. Tata bachana puni matu hita bhai bharata asurau. Mo kahu darasa tumara prabhu sabu mama punya prabhav. He says, Bhagwan Ramchandra ji is telling to Valmiki ji, he says, so many good things have happened to me. One is, I was able to keep my father's word, Dasharath Maharaj. Second is, my mother was happy. When she was not, she gave me her blessings to go to forest. Kausalya ji gives her blessings. And I have a brother like Bharata. And now I am able to see you. All of this is because of my punya. Such a great thing has happened to me. This is called darshan. Outside situation, he is made to go to forest. Vanavasa is happening. But inside, there is a very different understanding about why this situation has come about in my life. That kind of conviction, when it comes, then one is able to move forward on their journey, but most importantly, live a life with lot of inner strength. Okay, that is the power of darshan. Now, whenever we use the word darshan, there are 5 key aspects to it. Okay, the first one is called pramana mimamsa, what we call as epistemology. Like when you are writing a research paper, you need to write what are the valid means of knowledge. Where did you get this understanding from? Some of you must be familiar with theory of experiment, right? You write it in the beginning. How have you set up your whole thing? What is your valid means of knowledge? How do you know what you know? Okay, that is called as pramana, epistemology. Second is called tattva-mimamsa, means fundamental elements. What is your starting point of thinking? Okay, for any darshan. So there are different darshans in Indian school of thoughts. We won't go into details of them. We are concerned with Vedanta darshan. Huh? So we will just stick with these categories. Third is Srishti Mimamsa. What is this creation and why are these experiences there in my life? Why situations have come in my life in the first place? So answers have to be given to all these questions. So these are some of the parts of a darshan. Then comes Achara Mimamsa. Means it is sadhana. It is not only a philosophy that is there. How do I implement this philosophy? How do I translate this philosophy in my everyday life? That also should be answered. That is called as sadhana or Achara Mimamsa. And the last one is, what is the nature of bondage? What is the nature of liberation? This also has to be answered. Okay, these 5 aspects, when they come together, they make a darshan. Now, if you take yoga darshan, that will also answer all these questions in their own way. Vedanta darshan will answer it in their way. So this is called as Vedanta darshan. Now, as an example, let us look at Charvak darshan. Charvak means materialist. What is their view about epistemology? How do they know what they know? They say seeing is believing. Whatever I see with my eyes, that is what is the absolute reality. Nothing more than that. What if I don't see anything, then that thing does not exist. What is your fundamental starting point? They say there are only 4 elements and mixture of that creates consciousness. Okay, 4 elements come together and consciousness is a spark that comes about in that mixture, okay, of those 4 elements. What is the nature of creation and experiences? They say creation is eternal and it is real. Experiences just come and go because it is mostly random. There is no logic behind experiences, they just happen. What is the sadhana? What is the Achara Mimamsa? They say we should be very hardworking and we should earn credibility. In particular, we should know things about politics. Political science should be very thoroughly studied. And with that, we should live our life. So this is their way of thinking. Okay, this is a systematic darshan. It has its own sutras, it has its own teacher, everything is there. We might see the form of it in the society today, but the roots are somewhere else. And the last one is bondage and liberation. They say life is only for enjoyment. There is nothing called as liberation. There is no moksha, nothing like that. We had done a play, first year of our Sandipani course. It was called Mall of Moksha. Different darshanas were offering moksha. And Charvak was one darshana. So we had to dramatize it, So this person is sitting there and having a nice massage and he says, what is it that you want? He says, what is there? You just enjoy your life. Khao, piyo, maja karo. Uske baad kuch nahi hai. He says, there is nothing more to it. You just enjoy. If you have to take credit, you take. But, make sure that you live a very luxurious life and there is nothing more to life after this. So that is their way of thinking. But one thing is interesting. We are not very interested in finding faults with any darshana. We are more interested in finding takeaways. What are the good things in every darshana? And what we'll realize that all schools of thoughts have very great sadhanas. Even from Charvak materialist darshan, we can take the hard work portion. Even if we have to seek credit, they say you need a good credibility. And that credibility comes from hard work. So like that, every darshana will have something to offer. That we should gather. So now let us quickly look at Vedanta Darshana and then we'll pause for this session. So what is the pramana? What is the valid means of knowledge Vedanta considers? So Vedanta says epistemology or valid means of knowledge is Vedas. Now we will look in detail, what is Vedas and everything. It will come one by one. But first we should start with the thoroughness of Vedanta Darshana. So it says epistemology or our main means of knowledge is Vedas. What is our starting point, fundamental starting point? We say there are three entities where we begin. One is Jiva, we ourselves, individual. And then there is this world, Jagat. And there is Ishvara, Bhagwan. How this world has come about, everything we will discuss later. But this is our starting point. What we see, right? Jagat is there, Jiva is there, and there is a controller who is Ishvara. What is Srishti Mimamsa? Creation and experiences. We say that there are two standpoints of creation. One is a relative standpoint, and then there is an absolute standpoint. What it is, later. Okay, but this is our way of thinking. And why are experiences there in our life? What we just saw, karma siddhanta. What is this karma? What is my relationship with karma? What is destiny? What is free will? All of that will be discussed. But this is our way of thinking. What is Achara Mimamsa? Sadhana. Gurudev used to say, reducing I plus I want. Okay, that is our fundamental sadhana, which shows in different ways. Honesty, lack of pretentiousness, amanitvam, adhambitvam, all sadhanas which are there, all of that will tie back here. Means philosophy should not remain just as an esoteric idea. I should be able to benefit from it. But that benefit will happen only when I'm able to do my sadhana. Okay, that is this portion. Now sadhanas will align across all schools of thoughts. Even Charvak, as I said, hard work, everything will align. Differences will come in other aspects. But we are not here to look at those differences and reconciling or anything. Our main focus is Vedanta Darshana. And last one, what is bondage and liberation? Okay, so the bondage and liberation, it is said bondage is just due to wrong identification. Now, our rishis were very compassionate. They said, we will give you different levels of understanding of this bondage and liberation. This is the absolute level, understanding that erroneous identification is giving rise to bondage. If I have a disturbed mind, if I can calm down that mind, that is also one kind of liberation. So that also we will see later. Okay, I'm just giving an overview of the topic. What is this fundamentals of Vedanta? Okay, these are the fundamentals. If you want to understand Vedanta Darshana, we have to look at Vedas, we have to look at fundamental elements, creation, sadhana, and what is the nature of bondage and liberation. So in the next session, we will start taking up each topic and gradually unfold it. This was the sequence in which Guruji had given us. Okay, so we'll pause here and then we can move on to our next session. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.